Imagine a world where the grand 19th century architecture we so admire was not built for people. A world where entire cities stood empty, like ghostly stage sets, their streets silent. In the old photographs we have seen 1,000 times, there was not a soul, no smoke from the chimneys, no children's laughter. It is as if humanity had suddenly vanished. And then they appeared, the children. Hundreds of thousands of orphans gathered from asylums around the world and sent on orphan trains to populate these desolate cities. Where did they come from? Why, at one single moment, did so many foundlings appear on the planet that enormous orphanages had to be built for them? And why do official historians remain silent about this? This account is not a work of fiction. It is an attempt to look behind the curtain, behind which lies the most chilling and incredible secret. A story suggesting that perhaps we are all descendants not of Adam and Eve, but of nameless children from an incubator. That our cities were not built by our ancestors, but inherited. And that our entire history is merely part of a grand experiment, the name of which is the social reset. It is strange, but the most incredible discoveries often occur in the most ordinary of places. In a stuffy, dusty archive, for example, smelling of mothballs and decay. It is there, among the yellowed files and dusty binders, that the first clues can be found. At first glance, they are ordinary antique photographs. Majestic buildings, familiar streets, perfect cleanliness. But something is missing. Life. In a station square capable of holding thousands, there is only a handful of children with their attendants. Not a single passerby, not a single carriage, nothing, only the void. The city is dead. Official science, that eternal guardian of our peace of mind, helpfully provides an explanation, an artifact of early photographic technology. Long exposure times, moving objects they say were not captured. A convenient theory, but one that crumbles upon the first close inspection. A long exposure would not capture people, but it would capture the traces of their lives. Where is the smoke from the thousands of chimneys in these northern cities? Where are the horses tethered to posts which stand still for hours? Where are the flowers in the windows, the laundry hanging to dry on lines? In these images, there is not just an absence of motion. There is an absence of any sign that these cities were inhabited. They look like sterile, decontaminated stage sets prepared for settlement. These are not photographs. This is an inventory report following a global purge. It is this emptiness, this ringing silence of the old photographs that became the starting point for those few who seek history not in textbooks. For those who understand, if the cities were empty, then someone emptied them. And if children later appeared in them, then someone brought them there. Is this madness? Perhaps. But the official version is even madder. Do you truly believe that in the 19th century, in an era without contraception, people suddenly stopped having children and only orphans remained? That a plague or a war could so selectively annihilate all adults, leaving the magnificent architecture perfectly intact? Where are the traces? Where are the mass graves from millions of corpses? Official history is silent, but silence is also an answer. And so, the cities are empty. But a sacred place is never empty for long. The system requires a reboot, a new population. And it appears. Hundreds of thousands of children, orphans, appearing as if from nowhere. Enormous orphanages are built for them all over the world. And then they are loaded onto orphan trains and distributed among these very same empty cities. Who are these children? Where did they come from? The family archives of those whose ancestors arrived on these trains hold a deafening silence. My great-grandfather never spoke of his past. He was a very private man, as if he were hiding something. He was afraid that if he told the truth, his world would collapse. They were different, strong, intelligent, but they did not remember their past. They were like a blank slate upon which anything could be written. A new name, a new family, a new history. A blank slate, a social reset. This is not a metaphor. This, perhaps, was a technology. Consider these artifacts found in the same archives, old postcards from the early 20th century. On one, a stork delivers a baby in a basket with the inscription, "Mail, we deliver to any point in the world." On another, a postwoman offers a child on her palm. "Send the little one to a new home, fast, cheap." Does this seem like dark humor to you? What about the invoices for shipping children from one institution to another where the item description field reads, "Boy, 2 years old, girl, 3 years old"? And finally, the most chilling piece of evidence, photographs from Boston, early 19th century. The caption, "Incubators for children used in educational institutions." These devices look more like laboratory equipment than cradles. All of this forms a single horrifying picture. The children were not born. They were grown, like a harvest, like a raw material. They were not saved from epidemics. They were produced on an industrial scale to populate a devastated world. Ancient myths, Vedic literature, medieval images, all of them hint that genetic manipulation and the cultivation of hybrid beings were known long before us. What if this knowledge was used to create a new race? What if we are all the descendants of these children from the incubator? Who stood behind this monstrous project? In the old, undigitized archives, in the personal diaries that the system deemed unimportant, one can find traces. The diary of a certain Dr. Clark who worked in one of these educational institutions. He writes of Project Diana, of cultivating hybrids, that the incubators are just the tip of the iceberg. These children, he writes, are our future. They do not remember the past. They will not ask questions. Their mind is a blank slate on which one can write anything. And what else is needed to build a new world on the ashes of the old? He mentions his colleague, a Professor Banks from a London museum, and a certain secret cipher. In the diaries of Banks himself, which were found by cracking open a sealed collection, even more is revealed. He writes of his collaboration with the Order of Diana. He confirms that the resettlement project was not completed and that incubators continue their work in various corners of the world. But the most shocking part was yet to come. Banks writes that he managed to find one of the survivors of the old race, a person who was not grown but was born naturally. The professor hid this person in a safe place, leaving a map. The last witness, the last hope. It was this trail that the few who dared to dig followed, and they found him, an old man living in a secluded cabin in the mountains. He told them the story, not of a war or a tsunami, but of an invisible poison, a catastrophe that destroyed not buildings, but life. It came quietly, like a sickness, and wiped almost the entire population from the face of the earth. Only a small group remained, those who were prepared, those who were in on the clot, the Order of Diana. They knew the end of the previous civilization was coming, and they decided to build their own on its ruins. They simply waited for people to die out. And then, using old knowledge and technology, they created the incubators and began to grow new people. The history we know is just the version they allowed us to know. And so, the majestic architecture that is attributed to us was not built by us. The cities stood empty, awaiting their new, artificially created inhabitants. Our ancestors are not the builders of empires. They are children without a past, brought by trains to cities without people. Our entire history, our entire lineage, is possibly a fiction, a well-written script uploaded into a clean memory. This is not just a conspiracy theory. This is explosive material guarded by very powerful forces. Those who once already pressed the reset button. Those who are watching us even now, ready at any moment to send their agents for those who get too close to the truth. They want us to simply disappear. They want us to not ask questions. They want us to continue believing in their cozy, heartwarming story about our roots. But what if we have no roots? What if we are all children from nowhere, living in a city that never had a childhood?